It is Sunday afternoon. You have nothing scheduled, nothing due, nothing urgent. You sit down, you try to rest. And within minutes, something starts. A low background hum. Not anxiety exactly. Not stress exactly. Something quieter, something more specific. The feeling that you should be doing something. That this stillness is wrong somehow. That you're wasting time. That other people are being productive right now. That you will pay for this later. You cannot name it precisely, but you know it, you have felt it your entire life. It is called rest guilt, and it is uniquely modern, uniquely human. And according to researchers, it is making you physically sick, not metaphorically, clinically, measurably, in ways that show up in your blood work, in your immune function, in your sleep quality, in the length of your life. The guilt you feel for doing nothing is doing more damage than the nothing you're feeling guilty about, and the reason it exists. The reason you cannot simply rest without that hum, starting, goes back further than productivity culture, further than capitalism, further than anything you were taught. In 2021, researchers at the University of Southern California published a study that directly measured rest guilt. They called it the idleness aversion, the measurable preference for busyness over rest, even when the busyness produces nothing. Even when people were given the choice between doing something pointless and doing nothing, they chose the pointless task. And they reported feeling happier, doing it not because it was better, because their brain treated activity as inherently superior. To stillness, the mere act of moving, of doing, of being occupied, produced a higher subjective sense of well-being than rest. Even when exhausted, Christopher Hsee at the University of Chicago named this phenomenon in 2010. He called it the futile busyness effect. He gave participants two options: deliver a survey to a location nearby and return, or deliver the survey to a location far away. And return, both options accomplished the same thing. But participants who took the longer route reported higher happiness, not because they enjoyed walking more, because their brain rewarded movement and penalized stillness. The conclusion was precise. Humans are wired to feel better when they are doing something. Anything. Even when the something is unnecessary. To understand why this wiring exists, you have to go back to the savannah. Your ancestors could not afford to rest unnecessarily. A Hadza hunter sitting still was a Hadza hunter not finding food, not watching for predators, not maintaining the social relationships that kept them inside the group, and outside the group was death. Stillness was not restoration, stillness was falling behind. Stillness was the condition you were in, right before something bad happened. The ancestors whose brains made rest feel wrong stayed alert, stayed productive, stayed alive. The ancestors whose brains allowed comfortable stillness were the ones who missed the signal, who didn't hear the predator, who fell behind the group, who didn't gather enough before winter. Natural selection did not favor comfortable rest. It favored productive anxiety. The low hum of restlessness that kept your ancestors moving was not a flaw. It was a survival feature, and you inherited it completely intact, running at full capacity in a world that no longer requires it. You do not need to find food. You do not need to watch for predators. You do not need to maintain constant social standing to avoid being left behind. But your brain does not know that. It only knows what it was built to know. Stillness is dangerous, movement is safe, busy is alive, rest is vulnerable. And so, every time you sit down on a Sunday afternoon with nothing to do, your ancient brain fires the same signal. It fired on the savannah. Something is wrong. You should be moving. You should be doing. You're falling behind. Modern culture did not create rest guilt. It inherited it, and then it amplified it. It gave the ancient signal, a language. Productivity, hustle culture. You snooze, you lose sleep when you're dead. In 2010, Dr. Soojung-Kim Pang at Stanford University began studying the relationship between rest and performance. He spent years analyzing the daily routines of history's most productive people: Darwin, Dickens, Beethoven, Einstein. Simone de Beauvoir, what he found, contradicted everything productivity culture had built itself on, almost universally. History's most creative and productive people worked approximately 4 hours a day. 4, not 12, not 16. 4 focused hours. and spent the rest doing what modern culture calls wasting time, walking, napping, sitting quietly, doing nothing. Pang called it deliberate rest, not passive rest, not collapse. The active decision to stop working before exhaustion forces it, before the quality degrades, before the brain starts running on empty and producing its worst work at maximum effort. The research showed that creativity does not come from sustained effort. It comes from the gap between efforts. The walk Darwin took every afternoon at the exact same time. The nap Einstein reportedly took every day. The long silent evenings Beethoven spent doing nothing after his morning work. These were not indulgences, they were the mechanism. Rest was where the work happened, at the level the conscious mind cannot reach, while it is working. The default mode network, the system that activates when you rest, is where your brain solves the problems. Your working mind cannot crack. We covered this. In an earlier video, the system that runs when you do nothing is doing your most important work. Processing, connecting, consolidating, building the solutions you will find in the shower tomorrow, in the walk you take after lunch, in the half-awake state. Before you fall asleep, the guilt that stops you resting is stopping the system that does your best thinking. You're not wasting time when you rest. You're paying the biological debt that makes tomorrow's work possible. The Hadza do not feel rest guilt, not because they are more evolved, because their environment gives rest, a clear function. After the morning hunt and the morning gather, rest is not laziness. It is preparation for the afternoon. The body knows it will need to move again. So rest is not stillness. It is loading. Modern work removed the second movement. The afternoon hunt no longer comes. So the rest has no clear function your brain can point to. And without a function, the ancient signal fires. Why are you stopping? There is more to do. There is always more to do, and there will be until there isn't. And by then you will have spent a significant portion of your one life feeling guilty for the moments you spent living it.